Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Connections Café, the first one for 2021. Thank you for choosing to spend your working morning with us. We have a very busy agenda full of interesting speakers from industry, government, and SME world who are eager to share information and insights with regards to our joint mission, I should say, of tackling the climate emergency and transitioning to a more sustainable circular economy. A bit of a housekeeping before we start. We'll be hosting a Q&A session after every speaker's presentation. So please use the Q&A function to ask questions throughout the webinar, and I will pick as many questions as possible at the end of each speaker's presentation for answering. This webinar is being recorded and live streamed. As you can probably see the little red dot on the top of your screens. And for those of you who have expressed an interest in joining us for the networking session, we will follow up with how-to information in the chat box in due course during the session. In terms of running order, the first speaker is our very own Technology Innovation Manager, Dr. Reza Akavan, who will talk about application of emerging technologies in reducing waste, especially in utilities. He'll be followed by our guest speaker from Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, Cheryl McCulloch, followed by Natalia Agassu from London Waste and Recycling Board. The investor angle will be covered by Susanna McClintock, Investment Director at Sustainable Ventures, and she'll be followed by James Tickler talking about science and innovation strategy at Department for Transport. We'll have two guest SMEs this morning, Upsolar, represented by their founder and CEO, Phil Wu, and White Cycle, represented by founder, another Phil White. And we'll wrap up today's session with another speaker from CPC, Ben Wilkinson, one of our accelerator leads, who will talk to you about exciting opportunities coming up from CPC in the coming weeks and months. Thanks to all speakers and those helping to put this event together. And without further delay, really, I'm happy to pass to our Technology Innovation Manager, Reza Akavan, for your first presentation. Reza, are you happy to start?
Yes, thank you, Methody. It's good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to speak at this event. Let me quickly share my screen. So I'm a senior technologist at Connected Places Catapult for the last 4 years, and I have about 14 years experience in delivering R&D EU projects, mainly in the field of connected machine-to-machine communications, IoT, 5G, and wireless technologies in general in academia and industry. So today I will briefly talk about opportunities and challenges of integrating renewable energy in smart grid systems. Just a very brief summary, I would say. First, for those who are not very aware of the Catapult Network, just give this intro that as you know, Catapult Network is established by UK to support business in transforming innovative ideas into valuable products and services. So currently, there are 9 catapults across the UK operating in UK's areas of strength. So we are a neutral convener between different industries, academia, SMEs, and Connected Places Catapult's main sector activities are smart cities and transport sectors. It's been projected that by 2050, about 68% of the world's population will live in cities. This increase in the number of electrical vehicles and electrifications of the transport will put extra pressure on UK's grid network. So since the day of the Thomas Edison, the grid did not change that much until the 21st century with the increase of the renewable energy. Now energy is generated by power companies and by consumers, renewable energy system that feeds into back to the grid using net metering systems. By integrating renewable energy, wind farms, solar panels, and geothermal power plants and other source of renewable energy, the power sector is redefining the energy grid into the clean resource that will support its growing consumer base with sustainable longevity. So there are many drivers to use renewable energy. As you know, the cost of renewable energy is continuing to drop. Cities and countries pledge to meet Paris Agreement target emission reductions, and all of these can create a good drivers to go through towards the using renewable energy. So combined strategy of renewable energy and energy efficiency offers feasible route to the decarbonization. However, there are some challenges for using renewable energy in current system. So a couple of them are listed here. Low generation and variable behavior of renewable energy is one of the challenges. So we can see there are patchy generators that are usually generating low amount of energy, and they're patchy across the country. Large number of disconnected generator plants, as I mentioned. Transmission lines are often blocked by local communities because most of the time, you know, the wind farms are away from, can be installed in rural area or in the coastal areas that we need to bring the generated electricity to the urban area, and these transmission lines needs to be established. In addition, recently, cost of renewable energy is a challenge by dropping prices in natural gas. Other challenge is solar, especially in solar and wind technologies. They have short operational lifespan, and batteries and other storage are not, you know, they are not, still needs more improvements, especially from performance perspective and the costs. On the other hand, innovative waste management solutions need to be completed, and because today still we are not able to recycle most of the solar panels. Adaptation of renewable energy in developed countries often slowed by aging infrastructure, because already the infrastructure is in place. But in the developing countries, there are opportunities and challenges. The opportunity is that using new technologies can be used as a leapfrogging jump. But on the other hand, the lack of capital investment is the burden. So with this introduction, how IoT and smart cities together can help to facilitate integrating renewable energy in the grid. First, very short description of the smart grid and how we can compare with yesterday, or we should say still in some countries today's energy system. So in the left, you can see the traditional electricity grid. So we have a few large power plants producing or generating the electricity. However, in smart grids, we can think about different, so many variety of generators, wind, solar, nuclear, or other sorts of generators, all together making this possible. In the market side, from market's perspective, there are centralized, mostly national-wide coverage for this. But on the other hand, in the new system, we are thinking about the decentralizing without, ignoring the boundaries between the states and the countries. Based on the large power lines and pipelines, the current traditional system works. However, in the new systems, smart grids, that includes small-scale transmission and regional supply. On the other hand, we have unidirectional top-to-bottom from generator to the consumer side. The transmission lines is only one directional. On the other hand, the distribution in the new system is both directions can be bidirectional. So because the consumer can also generate electricity and feed back to the feed into the smart grid. And in the consumer side, we have passive consumers currently most of the time, and the other hand, we're expecting to get active participating in the network. But how the smart grid works? So we have three main elements in smart grids. So we have electricity grids, obviously, which is depicted in red lines here. And then we have a data network attached to some sensors in the generators and the consumer sides. And or you can call it smart metering systems. So how it works is based on the elements that we are going to sense. The network can do some measurements and analytics based on the sense data we receive from the generator and the consumptions. So we can see there's a communication between all these elements to make this load balancing happen. So if in one section of the network there's a high demand for electricity, it can automatically bring some generators from the other side to make this happen, or vice versa. So we can automatically switch on and off some generators and consumers. Some ideas that how this can happen is using storage. So renewable energy with variable output and solar wind requires storage technologies to ensure rapid response to unexpected net load and offer greater energy resilience. As you know, the nature of solar and wind is that they're temporary and spontaneous. So we need to have a kind of a storage that to cope with this issue. And communication technologies and electrical superhighway that efficiently and reliably monitor, control, analyze, and optimize electric power. So that's another need. So imagine in some areas we have very good sunlight, and the other side we don't have that much. So we can create a kind of a superhighway electrical paths that make this happen, by directional paths that can make this load balancing. In the traditional energy grid was set up over a past century was designed to be demand oriented and supply ample energy to consumer at a given time. But the new smart grid was more based on supply-oriented consumption using IoT data and better predicting the amount of the energy consumes actually will need, and employ this data to help user based on their consumption and energy level. And the last things I want to highlight here is using cybersecurity and the risks that involved in this in the new system. When you attach something, when you connect everything, like infrastructure elements like smart grids, there's also create a large scale attack surface, and this potentially can be shut down part of the network or full network by some hackers and attackers. So we are seriously in need of cybersecurity measure that guard against these threats detect cyber or physical attacks immediately, limit the impact of such attacks, and provide fast recovery in case of any incidents or accidents. And there's a good chance of using, opportunity of using blockchain technology in a smart grid. And I'm happy to explain more in details if needed, but due to the limited time, I'm not going into more details about that. That's it from me. Happy to take some questions.
Reza. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Start my video for your interesting presentation, kind of insights on kind of various areas of smart grids and energy security, where CPC has also some track record, and we are always happy to partner with companies, SMEs, innovators out there in kind of testing, demoing, and deploying solutions around smart grid. So that's one area of interest for us, ever more so in light of 2021 and kind of the kind of evolving agenda of circular economy and sustainable energy. Guys, if you have any questions, actually there is one from Robin Tucker asking, have you considered satellite Internet of Things as a way to make smart grid data transfer more secure? So is satellite IoT a possible solution, Reza?
For security perspective, I'm not sure how it can be defined, if we can categorize in that sense, but there's a chance for all types of communications, including satellite communication, to happen. And when we talk about IoT, it's a very vast area. Some people just define it as low power, short range communications or large range communications. But in terms of the satellite, it has its own opportunities and challenges. So yes, definitely it can be used as a one way of. So there we are in smart grids. We are technology agnostic. So no matter what kind of communication technology is going to be used in low power wide area, 5G or any types of communication can be used.
Actually, yeah. Well, that's sort of and you mentioning the fact that it's technology agnostic actually made me think while you were presenting about a question from me actually about kind of the interoperability of those networks. Is this kind of to what extent this is an issue between different smart grids, given that they are, less centralized? Is this a potential issue between various smart grids not being in comms with each other, or?
No, we already have. No, I don't think so. It doesn't matter what kind of connectivity. So already we have like an internet. So no matter how you connect to internet, if you're using Wi-Fi or 3G, 4G, or with Ethernet cables, all connected together. So what's happening is just the end device, end-to-end communication happens through some physical layer, radio communications or physical cable connection, doesn't matter. So you have this end-to-end communications that happens. So the same things, the same concepts applies to smart grids. So we're just having this communications between different nodes that's happening. So no matter in physical layer what's happening in terms of the physical radio or whatever.
Yeah. And there's one more question. I'll kind of take the liberty to slightly probably rephrase it, because Gordon is asking about the trend of kind of workforce being more and more decentralized. So is this an issue for a smart grid, kind of for the resilience of smart grids, given that a lot of kind of productivity or kind of energy consumption will be rather than clustered as before, in big offices or kind of in big kind of central places, now decentralized, everyone working from home in rural areas, kind of out of cities. Is this kind of something that smart grids would expect before the pandemic, and are they resilient, you think?
So having more distributed fashion in the network may increase the resilience of the network. So that's the whole idea of smart, one of the main, I would say, pillars of smart grids is make this decentralized rather than centralized. In traditional grids are more centralized, so we have some power plants and everything just connected to that. It's kind of a cluster. In decentralized means, so we have different source of energy from wind farms, or even the houses can generate electricity. So and all of this is connected in a network. So we have more robust and more more robust network.
Yeah, and because the blockchain technology that you mentioned has a role to play there as well. Is this something that is just speculation for now, or kind of in theory, or are there like actual examples of blockchain?
Yeah, there's great potential for this, especially from a security point of view. 3 main pillars of blockchain are decentralization, scalabilities, and security. And blockchain can be used as a kind of a tool to manage transactions in smart grids, for instance. This is the issue we have. Or it can also, because everything is a transaction history we have in blockchain, so it can be used to audit or solving some transaction dispute if it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Reza, again for your presentation. It's really good when the first speakers keep it to time. So I'm more than happy to pass on to our next speaker, Cheryl McCulloch from Glasgow Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to thank you, Cheryl, for kind of stepping in a bit earlier than initially scheduled, because unfortunately our initial speaker from Ofwat sent their apologies for not being able to speak this morning. So from now on, everyone will be moved up by 15 minutes, which leaves us with more time for networking at the end of the session, I imagine. So Cheryl, who will talk us through Circular Glasgow initiative, on to you.
Thanks, here, and good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning. So as has been said, I'm Cheryl McCulloch, and I'm Senior Project Manager for the Circular Glasgow initiative at Glasgow Chamber of Commerce. So I'm delighted to be with you all this morning to tell you a bit more about the circular economy, which is one of the other sort of aspects of the session today. So I just wanted to start, if my slides will move, with really the why, and why we've very much been focusing on the circular economy as a real area of opportunity for business. And this slide, I think, really sort of demonstrates the why for us. This represents or reflects the commitments from the Paris Agreement around limiting the temperature rise, and it shows that the circular economy is a real way to help try to bridge the gap that's already the gap to limit the temperature that's there from the national commitments and other measures that can be used to try and limit the temperature rise. We know that current commitments can only do so much, but we really feel that by adopting circular principles, that there's a real sort of way that can then be used to try and meet that gap itself. I don't know if everyone is familiar with the circular economy, so forgive me, I'll just take a couple of seconds just to explain what this is. I know that often when I'm speaking to various presentations, some will be very familiar and some will be less so, but ultimately the circular economy is a way that the resources and services can be used for as long as possible at as high a value as possible. Very simply, we quite often refer to it being as enough for everyone forever. But it's very much about how we keep goods and services in use for as long as possible, so that thing that we call recycling being a good thing is actually the last thing that we consider, that there's much more of a higher value to be sought by maintaining products, reusing, refurbishing, and actually finding a second life for them rather than recycling. So what does that mean for cities? And I know that there's a question that's just been answered around the sort of move for people to be moving outside of cities, but actually cities, I think, do still play a key role in not just looking at smart technology, but also at the circular economy. Current sort of projections show that by 2070, I think that 70% of 2050, 70% of the global population will be living in cities. And I think that whilst there's a move to sort of more local areas, I still think that cities are a real sort of hotbed of innovation, but also a real resource user as well. So they use a lot of resources and greenhouse gases and emissions. So there's a real key role for cities to be playing within the circular economy, and that's why we really feel that there's a real opportunity for cities such as Glasgow to really take the lead in looking at circular principles. So what was the starting point for Circular Glasgow and some of our activities? So as I've said, I'm from Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, and we've been working in partnership with Zero Waste Scotland and with Glasgow City Council primarily to really help establish Glasgow as a leading circular economy city. We want Glasgow to be a leading circular city globally, Europe-wide, and of course nationally. And our starting point was very much looking at the idea of, well, how do you make a city circular? What's the starting point? So a few years ago, the partners came together and we very much explored that concept, which resulted in a report that came out in 2016, looking at a scan of Glasgow. So really we analysed the resources that come into the city and all the sort of material flows that come out of the city. So that very much identified manufacturing and food and drink, which is slightly separate to this conversation, as being one of the areas ripe for circular economy adoption. And it really sort of took off in some ways because that sector is quite collaborative in nature. And what we found was that businesses were keen to do that, and the one that sort of took off at an early stage for us was connecting a bakery and a brewery together to make beer from unsold morning rolls, which are a speciality in Glasgow. So I don't want to say anything about Glasgow taking in a beer situation taking off, but it was a really great project. It could show some real business benefits as well as financial and environmental benefits for the businesses involved. What we've very much moved into doing is creating a movement in the city. We have been working with the local business community, primarily the SME community, whereby we have been working to help businesses to identify and assess opportunities. So we have been going in and working with the local business community to look at their business models to see where there may be opportunities for businesses to adopt circular principles. So whether that's business models such as rethinking the product aspect to think, could they servitise their business model? Whether it's about actually increasing use of technology and smart technology, or whether it's actually about looking at collaboration, because there's some real opportunities from looking at the adoption of circular principles. We know that from research carried out by Accenture that there's a $4.5 trillion opportunity. So we're really keen to work with the business community to really sort of help them at that first stage to identify what for their business may be the right model. We also deliver workshops in the city, bringing together businesses from across different sectors. Our sectors have really sort of widened out, really in line with the city itself. So we look at, construction and the built environment is a huge area for us. We're also looking at manufacturing, as well as sectors such as food and drink and events. And that's really about how we can help those businesses who may have that nugget of an idea, but how we can then help take them into implementation and help them move the business model forward. We also feel that by raising awareness of the circular economy is really important. So what we've started to do is deliver a number of events that are designed to help inspire, inform and engage with the business community. When we first started working in this area, we were, I suppose probably slightly early in terms of talking about the concepts, and some businesses were aware and really engaged, and some businesses hadn't quite heard. But by doing these events, it really helped sort of raise awareness and get more businesses engaged with the concept. And I think one of the key things that we're also doing is storytelling and trying to tell the story of the circular economy. We know that when we talk to the business community, if we can say, well, actually business X has adopted a new circular principle by changing their manufacturing process, and this has helped them to do this X, Y, and Z, that brings it to life for them, because then they can actually understand that if this business, if business A can do it, then why can't I? So that has been a really key part of how we can try and encourage more businesses to take that first step and adopt more circular principles. Oh, my slides seem to have stopped. There we go. So I just wanted to put up a few slides from the various businesses in the Glasgow community that we've been working with, so ranging from small SMEs right the way up to some of the larger corporates. And it is very much about advancing and sharing the circular economy as a real sort of concept and area of importance for the city. There's some fantastic examples in Glasgow of businesses taking the lead, right the way through from Alds, who have redistributed some of their unsold rolls to make beer, right the way through to some of the larger, more innovative companies such as Scottish Leather Group, who are working towards a zero waste to landfill and have some really interesting technology adopted to try and deliver some of that activity. And we also work in partnership with a number of organisations, including London Waste Recycling Board, and I know you'll hear from Natalia shortly as well. But there's some fantastic examples of businesses really starting to take the lead. We have, for example, Dear Green Coffee in Glasgow, who have recently just also been awarded B Corp certification off the back of some of their sustainability and circular economy work. And then we also have organisations such as the Scenic Centre, who have went all the way through from working with us to assess opportunities right the way through to how they implement that with their retailers and their shopping centre. So it's been a real mixture of activity, but we're really starting to see the business community really start to embrace and adopt circular principles through some of the engagement with ourselves. In terms of the wider context for Glasgow, the circular economy has really started to gain some traction, and we're really starting to see Glasgow play a leading role. Just recently before Christmas, Glasgow City Council, our local authority, approved a circular economy route map for Glasgow, which has now just been, as I say, been approved by committee. So that's a really exciting move for the city, because it helps bring together the business community's actions with the activity happening more widely across the city. And there's a number of different areas that they're looking at, including the built environment, as is sort of touched on already, textiles, plastics, energy. So there's a huge area for the city and a real opportunity. And the city itself, from the route map, is actually aiming to be a circular city by 2045. So there's a real groundswell of activity happening in the city, so it's fantastic to be a part of it, and we're keen to continue to work with the business community to advance the opportunities for them. Touching on some of the wider city context for Glasgow, there's a number of other strategies in place that all feed into our circular economy activity, such as plastic reductions, where we aim to eradicate single-use plastic by 2022, a climate emergency implementation plan, where we've declared a climate emergency and set a target for Glasgow to be carbon neutral by 2030. And then we also have the low emission zone. So there are a number of strategies and initiatives taking place in the city, and there's a number of really exciting opportunities whereby we're looking at how we can really try to, I suppose, to localise, but also look internationally at how we can become a leading circular city. How to get involved. I appreciate this is probably a more national audience than just Glasgow itself, but hopefully that's given a bit of a flavour in terms of circular economy activity in the city of Glasgow. If you'd like any more information on the circular economy, I've placed a couple of links here in terms of our website. But if you'd like to find out, if you are a business or an organisation in Glasgow who'd like to find out about how they can get involved or actually think about what the circular economy might mean for their business, we'd be more than happy to talk to anyone. So I've placed our website or our email address below as well. And we're always more than happy to talk to businesses in the city to help adopt circular principles and help support them and help take things forward, but also to help to tell the story. So hopefully that's given a bit of a flavour in terms of what's happening in Glasgow. I know Natalia will be doing something similar in London as well shortly, but more than happy to answer any questions. And I've tried to keep it relatively brief into time, but I'm happy to take any questions just now as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Really great, exciting presentation. And thank you for keeping it to time as well. Equally important. Some great comments and feedback in the chat box with regards to kind of the new ways of thinking and kind of approaching the circular economy, because probably you know better than many of us how kind of this is, how important it is not to kind of feel it as a as a buzzword, and actually put some practical, actionable, steps into realizing the strategy. So really great to see Glasgow taking the lead there. And I have some questions coming up about your presentation. So Martin is asking a very practical one. What are the practical steps in the next 3 to 5 years that business or householder needs to do if they want to apply net zero changes? So what should be the top of the list in terms of practical steps in applying new technologies?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly our focus is more around how the circular economy can help to address net zero strategies. So I think that we'd be looking at how businesses can, so if you're looking at it from more of a sort of smarter technology point of view, we'd be looking at what some of the processes or technology that could be implemented to try and address circular economy principles, whether that's smart metering, whether that's Internet of Things or blockchain. I think it would be dependent on, I suppose, in some ways, each business's opportunities and their sector. So for example, if you look at the built environment, I think there's a number of opportunities to adopt circular principles within that, using technology there. So looking at building the material passport, looking at BIM, looking at actually some of the kind of really clever apps that can look at embodied carbon or look at construction waste. So I think in some ways for me, and I know that Natalia may have some additional thoughts when she's presenting, but I think in some ways it probably depends on the business and the sector. I think there's certainly some easy steps that all businesses can be taking, and that is about looking at, what resources they use, what materials they use, and actually what can be done differently.
Yeah, great. And one more question came up with regards to kind of possible change of businesses and preferred business models. So have you witnessed any transition as part of the engagement with Circular Glasgow, or kind of in general kind of mindset of business community in Glasgow, from linear sales to leasing models? That's a question from London Waste and Recycling Board, actually. So a bit of a kind of insights, perhaps, city to city. So how have you seen, or do you kind of encourage this sort of kind of thinking at new ways of doing business, kind of moving from kind of traditional linear sales to more leasing in line with kind of reusing, recycling existing assets?
Yeah, it's certainly something we're starting to see more of, and actually there's a company in Glasgow who's looking at that from a sort of a manufacturing and furniture basis, that they're looking at a leasing model for that. So they're actually kind of looking at, they've brought some KTN resource in to look at that as well, but there's they're looking at how they can servitize their business model that way. So we're certainly starting to see more of that servitization model take shape, and that's one very practical example at a sort of manufacturing level, and from the sort of, I suppose, furniture making community, but we are starting to see that a bit more widely, and it's certainly something we've been encouraging, that may be something to try and change that model and consumer relationship. So that's certainly something we've been sort of promoting.
Thank you, Cheryl. Well, that I guess makes it kind of a nice kind of transition transition to our next speaker, who will present, the London point of view in the conversation about net zero and circular economy. And I'm saying hello and welcome to Natalia Agato from London Waste and Recycling Board. So yeah, Natalia, how do you compare with Glasgow and what you have on offer for our SMEs?
Of course. Good morning, everyone. It's very nice to be here, and what a great intro from Sharon, and a great class to continue sharing exciting stuff on the circular economy. Bear with me, I'll try to share my screen. Hopefully everything will go smoothly, and hopefully you can all see that. I'm going to put it in slideshow. Yes, should be with you as well.
Perfect. Yes, thank you.
I think I just want to take 1 second to just explain who I am before I dive into what we actually do. I am Natalia, and I work for the London Waste and Recycling Board, and I'm leading the business transformation program of LWARB, commonly known as Advanced London. And we have been around for 4 years now. We have worked with more than 200 businesses in London, trying to help them transition to circular business models, or if they have a circular.
Sorry, Natalia, just say that you are sharing your presenter view. So if you can click on viewers mode, not presenters mode. It should be.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Nope, it's the same. They are. That's your view, and then you should, if you go back.
Let me.
And then on the
speaker view. Let me try this.
Yeah, so now you're in speaker's view or presenter's view, and you need to share your. And then
click on where it says slideshow, Natalia. Along the top, you've got home. So if you stop that,
Yeah.
so start sharing again.
Yeah.
So along the top, you've got home, insert, design, transitions, animation, slideshow. So file, home, insert, design, transitions, animation, slideshow. If you click on the one that says slideshow, right at the very top underneath the red bar.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I know. Yes, I know how to slideshow. I'm just. I think there is something with. You mean the panels? The panel.
Yeah. So just if you could make it full screen.
Yeah, I know. So you don't see. Okay. Because I am clicking on full PowerPoint mode. I'm going on slideshow, so I don't know why you don't see it.
we can see, yeah, what you see, like including your notes. So if you just click on slideshow.
I'll click again.
Yeah, there, and then from beginning.
It's not. Can you bear with me while I show you? Let me see. What can we do?
We can use that, Natalia, as long as you haven't got any notes that you don't want anyone to see. We can use that.
Yeah, that's okay with me. I don't know why
We can go with it. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Perfect, Natalia.
it works, but I don't know why.
Thank you.
Okay, so where was I? I think I was just about to say that we have worked with more than 200 businesses in London, and basically our aim and our vision is to make the circular economy everyone's business. This is a mandate that has been in line with our vision for London in general, and as it has been reflected in different strategy documents like the Mayor's Environment Strategy, but also the Circular Economy Roadmap that we have developed back in 2016. So I think Cheryl did a very nice intro to the circular economy, and I just want to reiterate that what we're talking about and what we're trying to make businesses see differently is that at the moment we are somewhere between a linear economy where we just take, make, and throw away things, and a recycling economy. So there have been some serious and recycling initiatives where we do take things, we make them, but then we kind of recycle them, and whatever we can recover from that somehow we reuse. But the difference is we're trying to get everyone to be in operating and working and doing business and living in London in a way where resources are kept in loop for as long as possible and at their highest value. And many thanks to Flanders for such a great illustration that they did many years ago. And basically, we're trying to remain as close as possible to the three circular economy principles that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation has also identified, and that's like trying to design waste and pollution outside our systems, keep products and materials in use for as long as possible at the highest value, and regenerate natural systems. So our work and what I'm going to show you next tries to stay loyal to these principles and actually tries to challenge businesses in London, and especially small and medium enterprises, in addressing those principles. We needed to have a sort of framework to develop, to present to the businesses, and we needed a framework that covers all the sectors that were addressed and defined as priority sectors for us in London in the circular economy roadmap. And you can see the 5 sectors that have been of strategic importance to us. And we have, after having worked alongside businesses for a long time, we have actually developed a sort of framework that helps us demystify all these complicated terms around the circular economy, trying to make it as simple as possible for businesses. So when a business comes to us, we start and say, look, there are like 5 key core strategies you can think when you are trying to define how you're going to contribute to the circular economy discussion. First of all, you need to look at what comes into your business. So you're looking at your circular supplies. Can they be from renewable, regenerative sources, or can they be recovered or remanufactured supplies instead of going in sourcing raw materials, and hence having a big impact on the natural ecosystem. I have added some examples there of companies who are trying to bring that alternative to the market and have successfully done so. Then once you have your resources into the business, we're challenging and asking businesses, okay, how efficiently are you using them? Do you know how you're using them? Are you tapping into available tech like Winnow or Flow and other businesses who could enable you to track what happens to those resources and use them as much and as better as you can? Then looking at what comes out of your processes, operations, etc. Is there any way to recover those materials and either repair or products, repair them, remanufacture them, make them available to other people so they can become their circular supplies? And you can see examples of businesses here that are doing exactly that, especially like 4162. This is a perfume manufacturer here in London who launched a take-back scheme for their glass perfume bottles. And so they offer a refill service for these perfumes. Then taking it a step back to a strategic level, is there any way you can design, challenge the way you design your products? Can you design them with modularity in mind? Can you design them to be repaired easily or recover materials from them easily or last longer? We are challenging businesses daily to think around this concept and this new business strategy. And last but not least, we are challenging businesses, and hence my question to Cheryl before, to launch and redefine their business model and the way they generate revenue. So typically we have linear models where somebody takes, sells, and then passes the ownership onto the clients. And here we're seeing models of businesses like Leopard Things and Cup Club who are trying to provide an access to an asset or to a service without providing actually the product. So it's a product as a service model. And we're trying to see where this concept can apply and within which industries and with which businesses this could be a potential win. This is a summary of how we work with the businesses to help them challenge and implement all of the above. We have businesses redesign the way they think, and for those who have already a circular DNA, like some of the examples that you saw above, we help them validate that they are indeed circular, and we also help them amplify the impact they're creating by either getting them into meet the buyer events and meet the investor events and accelerating access to funds and investments that they might need to grow. This is a more detailed view of our services. We also have dedicated streams around sustainable packaging and circular packaging. We have a certain specific focus on food, and we have developed also a lot of tools and guides around that. And for anyone in the audience who wants to test and pilot things with us, we're more than happy. All of our services are free and subsidized from the European Regional Development Fund and award itself. So it's a missed opportunity if you guys don't tap into our services. This is a quick summary of what we have achieved so far. As I said, we have worked with more than 200 businesses now, and I think we're confident to say that the circular economy does work. People are making it happen. Businesses daily prove that it does make sense. And it does create a lot of employment as well. And we're really proud to have supported 50 of those 1,000 jobs that are created in, by our circular ecosystem, circular business ecosystem. And this is our team. So just to put some of the faces behind all the nice people doing all this nice work with the SMEs. And last but not least, there I added some links, and I think the presentation will also reach you. You can check out the support services at your own time. Sign up to our monthly newsletter. We tend to have a lot of info on grants, on success stories around the circular economy, SME news, etc. And we're opening up actually a grants rounds around circular pilots some months from now, in order to try to boost some circular economy innovation happening in London, and that's with thanks to the Mayor of London's Green New Deal funding that we have recently secured. And you can simply just get in touch with us and drop us an email at info@, and we're happy to cover any questions you might have for us. I think that's it. And apologies for this PowerPoint presentation.
No worries, no worries. Not the first, not the last time, I imagine, in these days. But yeah, really great to see how the breadth and depth of support available for London SMEs. I just want to ask you: do you have like any kind of, are you sector focused, or you're working across the board with businesses kind of from different sectors?
Yeah, we have these 5 focus areas: so textiles, built environment, food, plastics, and electricals and electronics. But within those, there are different industries we have been experiencing. Like plastics is not really a sector on its own. There are many industries using and tapping into plastics. So we have, for example, we are working with furniture manufacturers. We're working with a lot of restaurants and pubs, catering companies. So we are tapping into different industries with the key focus around food-related businesses, textiles, plastics, built environment. We have a big portfolio.
Great.
Electricals to a lesser extent.
Nice. And what would be like kind of top, very first advice for a company who wants to kind of be more circular? Like, what's the first step to do if you are kind of, it's a small, I know probably it's a too broad question, but should they look at the kind of material? Should they look at their business model? Should they look at how they offer their services? Or is it kind of holistic approach and you should look at everything?
It's a very good question. I think the first thing to look at is is try to look and think of the future in 5 or 10 years. What is a business reality now? We all know, like with events like the pandemic, the business as usual can change in a day.
Yeah.
So I think they should, if they start by thinking, okay, where does my business need to be? What are the key risks that I will be facing in 10 years from now? And then working backwards and trying to understand, okay, if I'm dependent on international suppliers for, let's say, my woods or my timber that I need to put into my furniture product, then you can work backwards and say, okay, where is there a local supply? Is there a surplus of materials used locally that I could be tapping into, etc., and work backwards. So start envisioning where you want to be in 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, you set the goal and then work back from there. Well, again, thank you, Natalia. I hope we will continue that conversation. We'll keep it going. And I'm pleased to pass on to our next speaker, Susanna McClintock from Sustainable Ventures, Investment Director in Sustainable Ventures, who support commercial solutions for tackling climate change and resource scarcity. So nice, and a follow-up from our last couple of speakers covering the investor angle. Susanna, over to you.
Great, thank you, Matali. Can I just check that you can see the screen and hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, great,
Yes,
thank you.
Yeah, I can see you. Yes.
Well, very nice to be here this morning. Thank you to the Connected Places Catapult for inviting me to join you. A real pleasure to follow Cheryl and Natalia doing great things in the circular economy. I started my career in this sector in waste and recycling, so I always love to see all the advancements going on there and hear them speak. So in wonderful company. So I am the investments director at Sustainable Ventures. I'm just going to take a few minutes to share with you what we do at Sustainable Ventures broadly, and then Matodi asked me to speak a little bit about investment and fundraising specifically within the sustainability sector. So at Sustainable Ventures, we have a vision of the world in which climate change and resource scarcity are addressed through commercial solutions. And we want to do that by delivering the world's leading sustainability businesses. So in practice, how do we do that? Well, we're a pretty small organization, only 20 of us, and we've conspired to make quite an elaborate organizational chart. So we do a lot of things. The first thing that we do is invest in early stage startups within the sustainability sector. That's the function that I lead, predominantly through our accelerator fund, and I'll come on to talk about that significantly later. We also have 2 workspaces in central London, where we believe we have the largest ecosystem of sustainable startups in Europe, and I'll also speak a bit more about that. We provide what we call venture support services, so specialist sector support services to early stage businesses. We do that both on a commercial basis and also through some incubator programs that we run both for the Mayor of London and for Climate Kick, as well as some corporate, Schneider Electric. Within those services, we can help companies with non-dilutive funding through grants and R&D tax credits. We offer some back office outsourced functions such as accounting services. And we have some specialist services for basically for startups who don't want to hire in full-time teams, for example, around design services or project management. And then at the bottom of that slide, there's a long orange bar that says venture development. And that is that we all came from a background of launching businesses ourselves. We all came from entrepreneurial spin-out activities, and we continue to do that. So we continue to launch and spin out 1 to 2 businesses each year. But now we've transitioned our business more into supporting external SMEs. So we're often asked, actually, what do we mean by sustainable? It's quite a generic term, and so we try to add some definition to that. So for us, it's where the core business model addresses climate change or resource scarcity, and we focus within 5 specific verticals, and those are food and agritech, mobility, so a lot of things around electric vehicles or other types of transport and transport sharing models, future energy, which is just a way of encapsulating all things, excuse me, all things renewables and renewable supply chain. Building technology specifically around carbon reduction, a significant portion of the UK's carbon emissions come from the built environment, and circular economy, which you've heard a lot about in the last two presentations. So Metodi asked me specifically to speak about our investment activity, and we currently invest through an annual fund that we call our Sustainable Accelerator Fund, and we based that on our own experiences of what startups need at their earliest stage, and those are money and support. And so we've designed this accelerator fund to invest at kind of a pre-seed stage, typically between 50 and 200,000, usually around 125,000 in a pre-seed round. And all of those companies join us on a one-year accelerated program. And that program is focused on helping companies to create and install the building blocks that they would need for the growth of their company, with a particular focus of helping them to achieve the next round funding. We invest at a pre-seed stage, and usually that all of the SMEs are going to have a longer and bigger funding requirement over time, and we want to help them put into their business all the things that they will need to raise those funds. So we focus on commercialization support in key areas of the business, whether that be sales, team development, board creation, partnerships with larger companies or suppliers, and other elements of the supply chain. All the companies become members of our Sustainable Workspaces community, and they have access to co-working desks and workshop space, as well as an array of events, workshops and other learning and sharing opportunities. And we also provide mentoring from successful entrepreneurs and from sector specialists, and we have excellent investor connections within our sector, having worked with most of the leading impact and clean tech investors. And our goal is that all of the companies in the accelerator we invest in should go on to have everything in place for successful growth. To date, we've invested in 23 companies over 3 investment funds. We've just raised our 4th fund, and we'll be investing that over the next couple of quarters. We'll make 8 more investments from that fund this year. We've invested 2.7 million in equity, and we're really proud that those companies have gone on to raise 28 million in further funding, so almost 10 times, or actually a little bit more than 10 times our initial investment. We invest across business models and sectors. So here you can see all of our portfolio, and some are kind of hardware, heavier CapEx companies such as Drygrow, which is transforming the food supply chain in dry climates, or SunSwap, who are taking diesel emissions out of the haulage transport by converting transport refrigeration systems to solar power. We have invested in a number of marketplaces, so HireCar, the peer-to-peer car sharing platform, or New Wardrobe, a clothes sharing app, as well as some B2C businesses, Good Club and online grocery sales, who had a bumper year in 2020 as we all needed to source our food from online, and also Circular, taking single-use plastics out of the cosmetics industry. They launched actually in December of 2019 into the airports and hotel market, and had about 2 months of that before they had to completely pivot their business model to cope with the situation created by the pandemic, and they now provide delivery of refillable cosmetics. An amazing business pivot there. So I also wanted to cover what our own investment criteria are. All investors have investment criteria, often with significant overlap, but some specific to the stage they invest at. So we prefer to see teams of 2. We think that two is better than two brains are better than one brain. We're obviously looking for high potential growth. We are usually the first or possibly second professional money into business. Sometimes businesses have raised a bit of grant funding or a bit of angel investment when they come to us. We want to see some sort of proof of concept, through a model or an MVP or some market traction somehow. We'd like to see some intellectual property, or where that's not the type of business that not type of business model that has patentable IP, then some defensibility of the business. And we are very happy to invest in innovative business models. So I'm very happy to see the unusual. It's important that we're able to communicate impact. We measure all of our companies against the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Obviously, you expect to see kind of climate action, responsible consumption and production, and innovation and infrastructure featuring heavily there. As I mentioned before about our workspaces, we believe we've created Europe's largest sustainability cluster. We currently have 2 co-working sites in London, one at London Bridge and one at the South Bank. And we're about to open a new flagship site at County Hall opposite the Houses of Parliament in May 2021. So if you are looking for a home for your sustainability business, please do reach out. And I just wanted to recap on investment criteria, because this is the thing I get asked most about. So we invest only in sustainability. We don't do medtech or edtech unless there's also a significant sustainability element. We are SEIS and EIS investors in pre-seed or seed rounds. We usually invest around 125,000 in rounds of up to 500,000, and we invest at very early stage valuations. And we're looking for high potential teams and companies, and we like to see some kind of traction or proof of concept. So we are actually currently investing from our Sustainable Accelerator 4. So if that is of interest to you, then please do go to our website to check the eligibility criteria, or send in your pitch deck to investments@sustainableventures.co.uk. Yes, thank you very much for having me here to speak. I'd be very happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Susanna. Thank you indeed. Yeah, guys, now is the time to kind of put your question to Susanna at Sustainable Venture. And Susanna, are you running kind of a continuously open sort of ongoing around, or are there kind of cutoff dates? So how you sort of when?
Yes, actually, thank you, Matoli. That's a really great question. The Accelerator Fund is, I would not say always open, but it's open on a rolling basis. So we don't have specific cutoff lines, although we will be investing in this quarter and next quarter predominantly. Once we've fully invested the fund, obviously then we have to wait to raise the new one, but we don't have a specific set of timelines. And we don't have a one start date for all. Actually, companies start on the accelerator on a rolling basis from when we invest.
Okay. And you said the accelerator program is 1 year?
1 year, yeah.
And is it just for UK companies, or you're happy to take?
So because it's SEIS, EIS investment, that means that companies need to be eligible via the UK route. So it's usually UK companies, or it must be a company that has a UK entity with SEIS or EIS qualification.
Guys, if you, I think Susanna just answered. You are EU business, then you need to be EIS compatible. So thank you for answering that. And yeah, if you stay with us for the networking session, you'll have kind of the opportunity to ask Susanna any questions there, or kind of just reach out to her email address. Thank you, Susanna, for now. And I'll passing the mic to our next speaker. We're kind of in our second half of today's session, I must say. And I'm passing on to James Stickler, Science and Innovation Lead at Department for Transport. Hi, James. Can you see us? Can you hear us?
Hi, Matodi. I can see and hear you. Can you see and hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Right, I'm just going to trigger my my slides for you guys. So, can you see those now?
Yes.
Brilliant. I'm very happy to join you guys today and talk to you a little bit about TTRIG, which is the DFT's early stage innovation grant funding mechanism. So it's aimed at SMEs, but also open to universities, third sector organizations, and others, and is I think a really unique activity across government. Certainly something that DFT is very proud of. Right-ho. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Office of Science, where I work in DFT, talk to you about TTRIG, and then talk a little bit about the competitions we've got. So that lovely gentleman there is Professor Phil Blythe, who's DFT's Chief Scientific Advisor, and he leads the DFT Office of Science. And TTRIG is one of the things that he has instigated into DFT. He's coming to the end of a 6-year tour of duty at the moment, and TTRIG has been very much part of his time in the department. So as a team, our mission is to try and push science and technology evidence into decision making. So to make DFT work better with innovation and science and technology. And part of this is innovation and engaging DFT teams in innovation. And a key part of TTRIG is that it really brings innovators and policymakers, decision makers in DFT together. And that's one of the real aspects of its uniqueness. And it also lets DFT hit some of those more sort of perhaps Bayes-like goals. So DFT is very focused on running a transport system and improving the transport system, but things like TTRIG let us also deliver some growth. We help new innovations come to market and help UK businesses. So very positive in the round. This is where we see TTRIG sitting, so right at the very earliest stages in the innovation ecosystem. So we offer these grants to try things out, so this proof of concept, and then we see these ideas going on to other activities afterwards. So that could be other support through the sort of the reasonably well-known Innovate UK mechanisms. It could be private investment, or sometimes people can get all the way to market after a TTRIG grant, but that's relatively rare and only in the sort of more digital space typically. And we see this scheme as fostering innovation, generating growth, and building links, as it says on the slide. And in the last 2 years, we've brought CPC into TTRIG, which has been a great step up for us. So as I said earlier, Phil's been with us almost 6 years, and over that period, we've provided over £6 million of grants. So these are typically small grants at the level of 30k, and so that's equated to 199 projects. The last of which, the 199th of which, got going in January. We do take risk with TTRIG, excuse me, because it's early stage. There is an element of risk, and despite that, we've seen lots of good projects. There was an electric HGV range extender that Teva Motors did a TTRIG project on, that eventually led on to a £12 million investment for an Indian company to implement it into clean air zones in India. There's also been a station navigation app that had $1 million from Google.org, and we've had lots of other successes across all of the different modes, across all of the different technologies, which is another key feature of TTRIG, that it's super broad. So we have drones, we have bikes, we have boats, we have internet on trains, all kinds of things. We last had some valuation done on TTRIG at the end of 2018, and that found at least 25 million of follow-on investment to a then upfront cost of about £5 million, and that was conservative. So we know it has good punch. Most recent TTRIG call was opened in September by the Minister. And this was our 11th call since 2014. Had 139 applications, which was great, and we eventually made 23 grants from those applications at a total funding of 650k this time, which is relatively modest, but still great that we were able to get that out despite budgetary pressures from recent things that we're all aware of going on. And so we then met project teams in December, and projects kicked off in January. So this is relatively quick for an innovation grant funding scheme, sort of closing in the October, and people starting just after Christmas. And this is a key sort of aspect in how we deliver TTRIG. We make it light touch and accessible. We try and lower the burden, particularly for SMEs who we know are time poor, to try and make it as accessible as possible. like this slide shows you the last two TTRIG calls. So 2020 call had an open call where we're keen to hear to receive bids from any aspect of technology that can improve transport. But we also had preserved funding pots for decarbonisation and COVID-19 resilience and recovery. 2019, so go back a year, we also had this open call, which we like to try and maintain decarbonisation, but we were also asking for ideas to help with potholes and resilient infrastructure on the roads, and also age-friendly and accessible transport. And that, if you look at that age-friendly and accessible transport theme, that was really successful, and it was an area that I don't think we'd been able to fund very strongly in the past. It was great to be able to do that. And then this year, leading on from the success of that call, we've actually had a TRIG, so a specific TRIG funding call just looking at accessibility. And this is a great example of what the tie-up that we started with that 2019 call with CPC has offered us. So the sort of how the mechanisms for delivering TTRIG in previous years had been just not very scalable, I think is the right way of describing them. But now, by working with CPC, we have scalability and flexibility, and we've mounted not just a TRIG in the last few months, but also before in the last calendar year we had S-TRIG, so a security themed innovation grant call, and we are hoping to have forthcoming grant calls on drones and maybe airport decarbonisation, possibly hydrogen. And yeah, there's an opportunity to do lots of trigs now in a way that we really couldn't before. So in a sort of nutshell, the kind of what this link up between TTRIG, which is a relatively well-established brand, and CPC, it lets us go beyond just the funding and the understanding which TTRIG has always offered to innovators, and give more comprehensive support. So through CPC, we're able to offer grant recipients some more technology support than they would have from perhaps just talking to us in the science team, but also business mentoring and sort of help to develop what's the route to market. So we see lots of great technology ideas in TTRIG, and it's wonderful to see those. But for government just to say that's a good idea, here's some money to develop it, that doesn't get anything to market. That doesn't necessarily lead to a product or impact. And so being able to do more and to prevent good ideas from failing to reach the market for the wrong reasons is really great for us. So lets us really maximize the impact of that grant we're offering. Yeah, it's a great model and a great success story. So I think that's all I'd like to say about TTRIG. I know that was quite a quick sort of canter through, but I'd be very happy to take any questions anybody has. I'm afraid I won't be able to join the networking session later, but yeah, happy to answer any questions now.
Yeah, well, yeah, now or just probably using that email, or also ask us. I'm sure, like Connectedness Catapult can pick at least part of those questions, because we are partnered in this program. And I must say that, kind of echo what James said, that it's a kind of wonderful kind of instrument to kind of cover this gap of kind of early investment and kind of early research, kind of pre-validation stage, and the fact that it sort of expanded it to so many other areas, not just focused on transport, where originally sort of where it originated, kind of proves that it was well in demand. So look out for those new open calls in various tricks, accessibility, security. I'm looking forward for the drone one, because that's always excites me, the drone technology. So unless, guys, you have any questions now, I am happy to give the floor to our first SME this morning, Upsolar, represented by its CEO and founder, Phil Wu. And he will present their AI-based solution for helping local authorities and building owners lower their carbon footprint. So Phil, if you are with us, floor is yours.
I don't think I can share my video. It's being stopped by the host. Is that just me?
You can just yeah.
Right, there we go.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Phil from Solar. Really excited to be invited by the Catapult today and to talk with you about our great technology. I'll go to the. Yes, my name is Phil, and from Solar. We are a Southampton-based startup, and last year we became a tech spin-out from the University of Southampton. Also last year, our tech was awarded by the highest enterprise award by the Royal Academy of Engineering, and for recognizing our technology's capability of benefiting the society. But what really put together this company is the united vision by every member in Solar. That is, we can help making cities greener and more sustainable. And also our technology has the capability of really benefiting energy users within the society, regardless it's a household or a organization. That is because we have this, our tech using AI and LiDAR to accurately analyze each and every individual building within a city. So first of all, the challenge with rising concern on climate change, cities around the world are seeking solutions to deploy more renewable energy systems. But the progress, especially in the UK, has been painfully slow. So for example, the image on the left shows you a district in Southampton where at least 200 buildings are perfectly suitable to install solar panels. But in reality, only 3 have got them. And there are 2 main reasons. First of all, people don't know if their building is good or not good for solar panels. So the conventional approach is to do it via a manual survey. So that means you need to send an engineer physically to the building, doing some measurement and doing some calculation. But it's very time consuming and labor intensive. And also after doing that survey, the house owner, the building owner still doesn't get some of the critical information such as how much is the capital cost or the payback period. And the second big problem is that manual surveys can be prone to errors, especially conducted at scale. So for example, it's so cost prohibitive to survey every building in a city. And it doesn't take into account external factors such as shading or human behavior. And when I was saying that there's a human error, I'm not making a hollow statement. For example, in 2019, over 2,000 complaints were made to BBC by those early adopters in solar panels who did not get as much electricity as promised by the salespeople. And Barclays had to put aside almost £40 million to deal with these complaints. And I'm not here to accuse any deliberate misleading or misinformation from salespeople, but I think it's important to recognize that there is a certain level of human error involved in the current approach. So what we do, first of all, we use LiDAR to scan the whole city at great accuracy, at great detail. So we can create a very detailed high-resolution 3D model for the whole city on a computer platform. Then we apply machine learning and AI to accurately recognize the shape, structure, and characteristics of each and every individual building within the city. And more importantly, we can estimate the, for example, the orientation or slope of the roof surface area. And because we have that in a 3D computer modeling, We can even estimate where the sun is going to be at different time of the day, thereby estimating the amount of solar radiation received by different part of the roof. And building on this concrete foundation, we can overlay different layers of socioeconomic analysis. For example, you may only want to tackle fuel poverty or prioritize social housing or any sort of housing portfolio. With all these computer models packaged in this modeling, we put a very user-friendly interface so it can be used very easily by energy users or organizations. And before I'm showing you a demo, I think I'm just going to very quickly touch on the competitive advantages. Compared with any similar products in the market, ours has two most outstanding features. The first is very high resolution. Our data is up to 10 centimeters, and that is more than enough, if not over-engineering. For example, the solar panels in the UK have a standard dimension of 1 meter by 1.6 meter, and our data is 10 centimeters. That is more than enough. And secondly, instead of only tell you how much electricity you're going to generate over the year, we can accurately tell you how much electricity will be generated every half an hour over the year. And that's got tremendous importance. For example, in very near future, people will be buying electricity at a dynamic tariff billed at half-hourly basis. That means that using our information, you'll be able to maximize your financial return. Right, I can't see anyone, but I guess this is about the time to do a demo. So before I start the demo, two very important features for you to look for. First is extremely easy. It is the only software in the market that is fully automatic. Secondly, the information has been geared to general public. It's very easy to understand. So let me start a quick demo. This Switch on Solar is developed by us, by AppSolar, for Portsmouth City Council. So citizens within Portsmouth will be able to search their property and find out if their address is suitable for installing solar panels. The only thing they need to do is to key in their postcode, then find their address. I was thinking whether anyone knowing any postcode in Portsmouth, but I have limited time, so I'm going to key in a one I'm familiar with, and then find the address. This is a very good one. You'll understand why in a second. And then just hit evaluate, and then let's computer doing the magic. So first, you'll see this is the address. You just search your building. And the first information we give you is a very simple 5-star rating. So this building is good. And the reason it's good has been explained in more further information here, so people can find out why it is rated as good. Then going forward, there will be 3 most important results. First of all, how much electricity your bill can be saved. For this particular building, you can save over £200 per year. And if you want to know how much that means to your energy bill, you can just click on it and see, compared with an average UK household, how much bill that it means. And then saving on carbon emissions. By putting solar panels on your roof, you can save over 500 kilograms of carbon emissions per year. And that is equivalent to a flight from London to somewhere very far away in the world. Electricity generation. The solar panels on your building can save more than 2,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. That is enough to power your electric car for 8,000 miles, or charging your iPhone for hundreds of thousands of times. And then at this stage, people will be interested to know more information in terms of investment. For this particular system, we estimate it's going to be somewhere between £3,700 to just over £4,000. The payback period will be 14 years. And in total, 8 panels will be put on your roof, equivalent to 2.6 kilowatt, and using just over 12, 13 square meters of your roof space. And this building is suitable to also integrate battery technologies. I know what you're thinking. Is this a random number generation? And no. So this tells you we know exactly which building you are looking for. And the reason I choose this address to do the demo is because the neighboring building has got solar panels. So the neighboring building's got 8 panels put on the roof, and we estimate you can also put 8 panels on the roof. It's quite spot on. And if you have seen some misalignment, so that's one of the feedbacks after deploying that in Portsmouth. If there's a small misalignment on the satellite image, you can just click on it and realize that it's not errors on our side, but because Google Maps got a very small amount of 3D perspective, and sometimes it can be slightly misaligned. Then, because today the payback period or your financial return of having solar panels is heavily affected by your energy bill, that's information we can never have. So what you can do is to click edit and simply change your actual energy bill to any figure that's more realistic. For example, if you say, actually, I spend about £60 per month on electricity, you just need to change it to 60. And the whole financial model will run in background and tell you, now you will have a much shorter payback period, which is not 14 years, but 11 years. Everything will be running smoothly in the background. If you want to know more, you can find out more information in the table or approach to our partner, which is Portsmouth City Council, to either get a call back or get a PDF document detailing all the information you need to know, or even approach to an approved installer within your local area. Everything will be carefully looked after. I'm going to come back to my presentation. Right, so hope you enjoyed the demo. I want to end my presentation on a quick recap. So we are a tech startup and just founded last year. However, our technology has been widely acknowledged. So we have won award from Royal Academy, the finest engineers in the country. And we've been receiving continuous support from my university. And we attended the CES last month and being rated as a top energy tech to watch in 2021. And also really proud for one fact we've been holding really highly, that is we have been 100% a customer funded business. So we have a tech and we also have a business. So I'm going to stop here and thank you for your attention, and hopefully I'm happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you indeed. Like really great technology, and as I said, really great to hear like the progress you've achieved so far as a kind of relatively young startup and already managing to turn in some customers. Pop in your questions in the Q&A box and Ben, Phil, actually, I got a question for you. So you said that you're working with Portsmouth County Council. So do you kind of do you plan to roll out your technology with other councils in other regions of the country? Kind of what the next steps, perhaps, in that respect?
Yes, our technology has been used by 3 cities in the southeast: Southampton, Winchester, and Portsmouth. And the important feature is that it's easily scalable. And we do have a plan to expand to every city in the UK within 18 months and start international expansion.
Nice. I can see that Natalia from the London Waste and Recycling Board is actually, asking for confirmation. Our councils are actually your key target market, because she would be happy to mention AppSolar when she's talking to one.
Sorry, beg your pardon?
Our councils, our local councils, your key market, key customers.
Yes, so councils are more than a market, it's more like a partner. So we recognize the importance of this technology can be directly consumer facing. So energy users like you, like me, or like organizations, they are very keen to know the potential of their buildings. And our tech is able to bring that information to their hands, so improving their decision-making process. So the councils is not only, they own a huge amount of building portfolio, so in that sense, they are our customers. On the other hand, they have great responsibility to bringing down the carbon emissions for their city. So in that sense, they are more like a partner.
Yeah, well, that's great, because we heard today from two cities, one Glasgow, the second London, and as I said, Natalia from the London Waste and Recycling Board is kind of keen to let her network know about AppSolar, so you may follow up with her.
Absolutely, I'm going to start my screen share so you can find my email and the website. I'm going to rather than see my face.
Just pop it in the chat box. Robin from Red Kite Consulting is asking, what satellites does the LIDAR data come from? So is this data free from Sentinel, or do you have to pay for it?
We got our data set from Ordnance Survey and Environment Centre. And recently we have been funded by the UK Space Agency, who's give us a lot of very valuable information. And we are also setting up some R&D projects to collect like LiDAR data in our own rights.
Right, great. But there are some kind of requests in the chat box, in the Q&A box, like for kind of to individually follow up with you. So feel free to kind of answer to those in there. But yeah, again, thank you, Phil. I'm looking forward to kind of continue this conversation with you, on a future occasion. And now I'm told that we have a slight change in our towards the end of our agenda for today. So our next speaker will be my colleague Ben from the Accelerator team, talking about exciting opportunities coming up from CPC for the SMEs today. So Ben, on to you. I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. Can you? Perhaps you may want to change the output if you're talking through. Let's see if he joins back. Guys, bear with us for 1 second until Ben reconnects.
Can you hear me this time?
Oh, I can hear you. Yeah.
There you go. Classic challenge at technology at the last second. I was just saying, thanks for having me today, Metodi. My screen share is actually ready to go, at least.
No worries.
My screen. All good?
All good. Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, so thanks for having me today. My name is Ben Wilkinson and I sit within the Accelerator Programs team. A quick introduction to the Accelerator Programs. So today we've had 5 Accelerator Programs across the country, and all in all that equates to 10 cohorts, and we're looking to grow that significantly within the next year alone. I'm just going to talk to you today about 2 of these programs. The first being the Simulate program, which is currently the program element is finished, but the project is still running to the end of the year. And then our most long-standing program, the Intelligent Mobility Accelerator, where we're just about to go into the 5th cohort. In terms of what CPC offers to accelerator programs, both to the SMEs and to the partners, we have a very extensive in-house technical specialist team that sits across various specialist areas, and they both help on the commercial side with our program partners, whether it be due diligence on SMEs, but also it supports a lot of the SMEs in their growth stages as well. So we have various teams that sit within modelling and appraisal, new mobility technologies, and that can help in anything from data analytics down to business modelling. And we've also got a very extensive external network of industry specialists as well. We also offer commercial support to SMEs, whether that's developing their road mapping through to business development and marketing support. We also help on sort of pitch coaching and development in that area as well. And we look to connect industry to the SMEs through sort of industry workshop and pitch days and things like that. And also on the funding side as well. So we really do support SMEs in preparing for investor readiness, giving them access to the latest funding opportunities, and support where possible on their applications for funding as well. So first I just wanted to talk to you very quickly about the Simulate program, which we've just wrapped up the program element, but we're still sort of supporting the initiative towards the end of this year. Simulate was a program that we supported on. It was a partnership between Staffordshire County Council, AME, CPC and Kiel University, and it was focusing on two main areas of innovative solutions in air quality and intelligent mobility as well within local authorities. The program itself, so the program is a 2-year, 22.9 million project that's funded by the DFT. Simulate itself was sort of one of 8 live labs initiatives across the country, with a focus just on mobility and air quality. You can see from this diagram that the focus areas of the other initiatives across the country. But in terms of what the program looked to provide to SMEs was a live test bed within Staffordshire for SMEs to trial and test their technology, business, technical and funding support from CPC and partners, in access to the investor network as well. And the program itself offered a grant funding of up to 100k for the SMEs to try and test their solutions. So we went through a very rigorous open call selection process where we went down from, I think it was over 130 applications, down to the selected 10 SMEs that we selected for the program. And as I mentioned, the two focus areas were air quality and mobility. The focus of the program, it wasn't so much so that it was just trying testing technology. There was like an idea behind it that we were developing this mobility ecosystem, where we'd bring in various aspects of the ecosystem and try and test them all, with the idea that you'd be able to scale this up across the country. So we brought in businesses that were doing anything from electric charging to EVs, through to IoT, e-mobility, and air quality solutions as well. So the program wrapped up, I think it was at the end of December last year, and we recorded all the initial impact that was generated through the program. We have some really amazing results here. So the live test bed was really sort of groundbreaking in being able to test the solutions at such a streamlined process. Through the support through the program, SMEs have been awarded, of the 10 SMEs, already 21 commercial trials, which has then led on to 14 contracts awarded. We've experienced some really exponential growth in the SMEs already, which has led to sort of 27 jobs collectively being provided to the SMEs. So some of the SMEs that have been in the program have really shown exponential growth in the last 6 months. And it's not on here, but there's also been a lot of investment that's been raised or proposed to be raised within the next year as well, in excess of a few million as well. And I just wanted to demonstrate a few SME case studies to demonstrate the how successful the program was. If I take Photech Solutions for an example, they had a newly sort of developed solution around DAS technology, which plugs into network cables and measures sensitivity under the ground. The CPC team were able to support them on developing a new data model solution that was aimed at helping them to understand further the technology that could be tracked. We also provided them access to a traffic simulation software. So once they had this solution developed, they were able to actually test it in a live location. And through access to new partners as well, they were able to develop a really healthy business development pipeline. Being able to demonstrate how quickly they could innovate as well also led to them being offered a position on our newly launched MK5G program, which is another program that CPC is running. Another SME was Ginger, who were providing e-scooter and e-mobility solutions. They had an amazing experience through the program. Within the short 6 months, they are now projected to be the second largest provider of e-scooters across the UK, which is a testament in itself. They were awarded 14 trials across the country, all due to the precedent of the program. It also helped them support their first raising of funding as well, and have been able to grow the team by an additional 10 employees. Another company, Now Wireless, which are leading in IoT and smart sensor technology. The program really helped them to pivot both on an investment level and commercial level. So through the investment support that we provided to them, they were able to realize a complete new investment strategy, and then in the process of raising $5 million investment. And on the commercial support as well, we really helped them to reposition the business both commercially and marketing, which has led to a 1.5 million business development pipeline. And they were also another SME that was selected for the 5G program. And then lastly, Is Clean Air, another SME that was on the program. We helped them, some of the CPC specialists helped them to develop new solutions. So Is Clean Air came into the program with a air quality and cleaning technology platform. And our in-house tech team helped them to develop an additional feature to their product offering around capturing COVID-19 and other pathogens within the air and cleaning it within indoor and outdoor spaces. And this sort of new additional function to their solution offering has led to some really significant global expansion within the last 6 months alone. So they opened up a UK office permanently, and they're also looking to now explore into the Asian markets. And this is all through having this sort of an extensive and additional solution offering to the industry. And then I just wanted to move on to our other program, the Intelligent Mobility Accelerator. So this is a partnership with Wayra UK and supported by program partners O2, Telefonica, Amy and Hyundai. And this is really focusing on providing support to disruptive startups within the transport industry. This is our sort of most long-standing program. We're now going into the 5th cohort. And as you can see here, the stats speak for themselves. So we've had over 550 applications across 4 programs now. The SMEs have gone on to raise 49 million in funding through supporting the program. We've had 39 SMEs that have gone through the program, and from that 31 commercial trials have been awarded. And alongside the investment, there's also been access to 4.9 million in CR&D funding. So we're in the process now of recruiting for our 5th cohort. So what I just wanted to do was quickly go through sort of structure the program and then the focus for the next program as well. So the program itself is structured in a way that we support SMEs through the journey, through access to business coaching, mentoring, business development, and investor networks. So it's both that investor readiness and also commercial readiness. For each SME, the experience is very curated. So from the get-go, we understand what support's needed, and we really build a program around the SME. The challenges set for the next program. So the challenge 1 is around future mobility models. So this is everything around micro-mobility within the cities, business models, and new technologies that are being rolled out. Challenge 2 is around electrification of the grid. So we're looking at EVs, we're looking at EV charging, and more so looking into how do you optimize the actual EV charging networks. And then challenge 3 is around urban logistics and supply chain. So we're looking at how do you optimize the logistic networks and really look to get towards that net zero initiative. And this just goes a little bit more into the areas. So future mobility models, we're looking at everything from mass platforms to last mile mode integratability and micro mobility solutions as well. Electrification of the grid, as I mentioned, everything to do with electric vehicle charging, battery agnostics, smart management of battery charging, and optimization of the grid as well. And then challenge 3 around logistics and supply chain. So everything around monitoring and optimization. You can find all of these challenges on the website. If you want to, you can scan the code here, or the website URL is there on the bottom. In terms of the deadline, so the applications actually close next Monday PM. So you've got just under a week to apply for that. In terms of the criteria that we're looking at, preferably we are looking at technology readiness levels of 6 or above. So SMEs that are able to demonstrate a prototype and market traction as well. However, we are still open to more innovative solutions that maybe aren't at this level yet. But just as a benchmark, that is where we're looking. And we also are looking for SMEs that can commit and have a willingness to engage in the program. We always like to say the more you put in, the more you get out. So being really able to demonstrate that you are willing to commit. And obviously that your needs and requirements align with the program. So being able to demonstrate that your solution really does answer the challenges that are set. And just a final finish with that, the partners that we have on this program commit over 100%, and it's led to all of the successes that we've had. So if you want more information, you can look at the website where it demonstrates some of the case studies. We also have a webinar that we were hosted last week, which gives more information on the recruitment process as well. If you are interested in the program and wish to apply, you can also reach out to me via email. And that's it.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for kind of rounding up our conversation today with kind of this kind of fresh opportunities that are coming up for the SME. So do look up for the IM Accelerator. Have a look at the Simulate Accelerator success stories as well. And before we finish, just have a look as well at the chat box, where you will find the details for the networking session. So it will be kind of a short and sharp networking session for about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of today's presentation. One last thing from Catapult. So we heard about accelerator programs, we heard about tricks, and for those who are looking for net zero challenges elsewhere, not just in the UK, we have a Latin American Net Zero Urban Innovation Challenge